Hello YouTube, little status update with some cool findings. So I went to work today and unfortunately I came home and this had stopped running and it just sometimes falls out of resonance and the pot needs adjusting. And also I swapped this back to the original configuration from the original when it was running. And after it stopped, I measured the voltage, and so the what was the charge battery. So the charge battery, what I'm calling the charge battery, is always the one connected to this. So at the time it was this guy, and that one was measuring negative zero point 0.6 volts, whereas the other battery is measuring negative zero point 0.3 volts. Now I added this few capacitors in parallel to add real energy. And what that did was it changed the capacitance and current going into this motor. And so, in general, this needs a higher resistance value, especially in SG mode. And so, once I started this, I wanted to know what is it like in generator mode. So right now it's running in generator mode. As you can see, it's a much slower pulse rate. And what's weird is I have to follow it with the pot a little bit to get it in resonance. It's like it gets going really fast. The bulb lights up with real current down there. My neon's fried, so you won't see anything there. And this pot, it's like it needs a higher resistance initially. It just wants to keep going, but it can't. And it'll hold itself there at the max speed at the max of the pot. And then eventually it slows down, and I have to turn down the pot again and get more current, and then it speeds back up again. And then I kind of leave it at that spot, and it kind of keeps doing that a little bit where I have to chase it. Whereas in the other mode, it didn't seem like I had to chase it with the pot as much. Now, what's cool is that when this stops, when it hits a waveform that's destructive and not resonating anymore, you hear this vibration and magnetic locking effect, and it hums violently and chatters and slows down, and then it almost holds its speed for a couple minutes at a slower rate, and then it'll just drop off again and die suddenly. So that's another interesting behavior I've observed, but I did not catch it on camera. Um, that's the first time I've seen it stop like that. So as you can see, we'll go underneath the table. No wires connected to it like that. Here's my crystal. It's just sitting there for the heck of it. Um, so we have been running for a total now of 73 hours. 73 hours on these dead batteries. So you can check out kenergy.store for this Bendini motor. This one is 450 windings and it's bifilar. And this is a motionless electromagnetic generator that I designed. And I used the assistance of Tom Bearden ChatGPT that is made by Joel Legace. It's an awesome tool. Go check it out. So now on to the interesting findings. So I brought in this transformer main. Let's get a good look at it. Turn on this light here for you. So lots of copper. It's laminated, flat copper, going around that. Huge core like this. And then touching this produces waveforms on the O-scope. And I wanted to see, can I use this as a pickup coil? It's not interfering with my Bendini motor system and how I'm switching flux. Let's take advantage of that switching flux around the room and, just get some added energy out of it. Might as well. There's a bunch of mass here. And so I wanted to see what effect this would have just placing it here. So it's been sitting here all day. Maybe that's why it stopped. Maybe this moved it out of resonance compared to what it used to be. So maybe that's why it stopped while I was away. Maybe it needed to be adjusted for that, because it does respond to the environment. So let's go back to channel A. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you that I guess my scope isn't working right, because we're measuring just negative voltage at that same line. Okay, well, I think the high voltage pulses maybe broke my oscope and it's not able to show it anymore. Come on. Oh well. Oh, there we go. I accidentally hit this to ground. I'm such a dummy. Okay. Well, anyways. Check that out. So that's negative voltage bias. And that's just sitting there. Now if I touch it, which I'm going to do on the camera. Boom. So you see that the oscope is working. And check this out, even touching this wire changes the capacitance and how it responds. And people say, oh, that's not how you measure things on the scope. You got to touch both probes. Maybe they're right in a sense, but at the same time, no, this is still a form of measurement. And they need to look at dipole reversal. They need to look at back EMF. This is still a form of measurement. This is an old oscilloscope, BK Precision 15 megahertz oscilloscope, model 1432. Okay? I'm not an expert or anything, but, you know, I built this whole thing with just a scope and no, like, measurement tools outside of that. So, now check that out. So we're at the 5 millisecond, 2 millisecond, 1 millisecond, 0.5. Now, I just want to note that our volts per division are 5 millivolts. So this is not a lot of energy, and that's to be expected. That's interesting. So I guess we're at ambient around the room. It's sensing negative 0.2 volts right here. And if I were to bring this over, you can see the fuzz now. I'm getting it closer. Okay. So do this red onto here. We're touching it there. We're not touching the black anywhere. And look at that. So our volts per division are at 0.2. And the bottom of that waveform, maybe like negative 1.5, 1.67. I don't know, it fluctuates a bit. The top of that waveform is also negative. And so let's adjust our time per division to 1 millisecond instead of half a millisecond. 2 milliseconds. Oops. We're going to go to 5 milliseconds. So that metal just touched the core for a bit. And so now I'm going to try shoved into that core and onto here like that. And check that out. Okay, it's really subtle, but it is waving, and the aliasing of the phone of the frame rate makes it really hard to see, but there's a standing wave. We're switching flux in this transformer from this Bendini motor. You see? Let's go to 50 millivolts and make it more obvious. So I'll shove this back in. All right, so we're touching right there, and we're touching right there. So it's definitely touching. So you can't say, I'm not measuring it right. And you see, we're still switching flux. You see how there's two waves 180 degrees out of phase? And you, oh, my bad, that was me touching it on accident. I just touched the wire with my hand. So the volts per division are 50 millivolts, right? So the top of the waveform is centered at 0, and the bottom of the waveform is centered at, or the trough is at negative 50 millivolts. Now, let me touch that wire again with my hand. So now I'm touching it with my hand and the red. So you can see the capacitance of my body affects this. And you can see that I've amplified the effect because my body is almost acting like a capacitor in an LC circuit tank. You see? You see that sharp pulse even? And you also see the phase shift going forward for certain time sweeps or frame rates. So you can imagine those frame rates as real world waves, both longitudinal and transverse, almost phase shifting like that, carrying real displacement current. And maybe I don't understand it right, but that's how I perceive it. So that's a 20 millisecond signal right there, time sweep. Now we'll go to 50. That's or is that 0.1? I guess this is 50. Sorry, that was 50, and I guess this is 20. So we get different aliasing effects depending on the time sweep per division, right? Our frame rate. So imagine the ether pulsing in and out, and that cyclic process is analogous to this frame rate. And so this measurement tool is still useful, even if we're measuring with a one-wire system. So if you have any ideas of how to better tap into this flux and how I can harness that, similar to how I did this, let me know, because that's what I'll be working on. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments any ideas, suggestions. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if this is over uni or not. I want to hear it. Talk some smack. Challenge me. I don't care. I'll stand up for myself. I know this is legitimate. Anyways, I just wanted to prove the world wrong, especially Oliver Heaviside. Academics, academia, they do not paint a full picture, and they do not do it justice, and they mislead people on purpose. I was called a flat earther in the gas upgrading industry, and I'm here to set the record straight. I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a crazy person. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not your label. I'm just a guy who likes to learn about the universe. Alrighty. Happy little trees, guys. Have a great day.